It's the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, starting at verse 7, and it reads, "But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of the Most High, and not of us." Verse 8, "We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed." Verse 10, "Always bearing about in the body the dying of the Lord Yahushua Mashiach, that the life also of Yahushua might be made manifest in our bodies." Verse 11, "For we which live are always delivered unto death for Yahushua's sake, that the life also of Yahushua may be made manifest in our mortal flesh." Verse 12, "So then death worketh in us, but life in you. We have the same spirit of faith, according as it is written, I believe, and therefore have I spoken. We also believe, and therefore we speak." "Knowing that he which raised up the Lord Yahushua shall raise up us also by Yahushua, and shall present us with you. For all things are for your sakes, that the abundant grace might, through the thanksgiving of many, rebound to the glory of the Most High." Verse 16, "For which cause we faint not, but though our outward man die, but though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day." Verse 17, "For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory." Verse 18, "While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal." I want to start off by giving all praise, all honor, all glory to God, Loyam, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachakodash. Double honors to the elders and to the apostles I learned this truth from. Peace and salutations to the Akim, across the four corners of the earth, pushing the truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives and the freedom to do so, now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and the Aquat up there listening and learning. Lord willingly, this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad, in the land of other nations appearing like the other nations. I'm subscribing to this truth to you. I say shalom. So brother Yahusab coming at you with another lesson through the spirit, through the power of Yahweh, Hashem Yahushua. Yahweh meaning he is, he exists, or he to be. Hashem, His in, His the Hashem his name. Yahushua meaning he saves, or he deliverer. True names of the Most High God and his Son. Which people only call God in Jesus Christ, but whose true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh, Hashem Yahushua. This lesson is inspired by this video that I came across by God. I think it's title of his channel is Large Man Living Abroad or something along. Yeah, Large Man Abroad. So I've been making a statement about despair, which means hopelessness, and just a few different things I've been saying, and it's just showing you, even he ain't an average American because he's, he has a little podcast and whatnot. Average American is just walking around as a dullard. But, even these podcasters recognize the state of this union and the fact that, there's no hope for this place. There's no bounce back for this place. And, eventually, it's going to lead into something major. I was listening to beloved elder apostle. He was going into the history of the Bacon's Rebellion, which I didn't know that was based over that. The way it was always broken down, which that's my fault because I never went into history and actually checked into it, but I think I am. Because he basically went into, they didn't have food. People couldn't live. They couldn't eat. They couldn't, they was having trouble surviving. And when it gets to that point in Babylon the Great, when they get to that point, we're going to see we're going to see a lot of violence. Scripture says in the last days, perilous times should come. Go to that word perilous. It means dangerous, fierce, calipus. Hard to bear, hard to do. It's going to be hard to live. So I'm going to play this video, fair use. I'm not profiting off of it. I'm just lining up what this guy is saying with scriptures that come to mind. Lord willing, is edifying.
All right, everybody. Well, it's new year, new me. 2025 is over. 2026 is here. And the country is not starting in the best place. I think that's really the most simple way to put it. As of this moment, over 20 million households in America right now, their premiums for insurance is skyrocketing. 2, 3 times, even more in some cases. Trump just came out and said that he's cutting federal funding for child care for every state because Nick Shirley's YouTube video, which was immediately debunked. I mean, this is a guy who's just walking around Minnesota banging on doors of childcare and wondering why no one's opening up for him. But that's where our country is at right now, where our politics...
Which I like to see how that's going to work. You got a lot of individuals that use childcare in order to work. Now, the economy's already messed up. That's what I'm saying. I laugh. My friend showed me, I think, what was that? Was it yesterday? I can't remember when she showed it to me, but she showed it to me. And just like I said then, I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, do what they gonna do, you know what I mean? Which is a funny situation because if you don't send the children to school, you can get in trouble for that. So, let's just, let the man just keep on, let him keep on being the agent of chaos that he, the Lord set him up to be.
They don't follow the will of the American people anymore. They just follow the TikTok or YouTube algorithm.
No, they just pretty much doing what the fuck they want. Showing you that, that's why they call DJ Trump, or, the elder, the spirits or the elder, to name that individual the king of Babylon, which he is, you know what I mean? The golden age, the golden city,
Not a good place for the American people to be, and it causes a lot of, not just fear, but uncertainty as what the hell is going to happen for the rest of the year. This is how we're starting out, right? Unaffordability crisis is already the worst that it's been in living memory, right? All the stats are showing that we are comparable, if not worse than we were in the 2008 great financial crisis, or even during the pandemic. Nobody can afford houses. No one's losing their houses because nobody can afford to have a house. It looks like we're about to get dragged into another conflict with Iran because Israel's like, I guess we're going to go back in there. I mean, the peace talks are just, listen, nobody has any faith in what's going on.
What's the scripture? The least of the flock shall draw them out. And at the end of the day, if you didn't realize by now, I remember Elder was going into it. Some of these Babylonians are realizing that pretty much, their politicians are bought and paid for by Israel or the Salakia, because we don't want to confuse the true Israelites with those Israelis. But those Israelis, though, the thing is, keep in mind, I believe at the time when it was first with Iran, Iran wasn't a part of the BRICS nation. Well, now, Iran is. So more than likely, if it's a second conflict, you're going to have, you're going to have Iran's, allies involved in this. And that's going to spark that third world's war or that third world's woe.
Anymore. And that's a problem. Because 2026 isn't a year of hope. Right? Right? We're entering a year of cynicism, a year of nihilism, a year of hopelessness. I know that everyone's hungover right now and it's not really what we want to deal with, but I mean, maybe that's the answer. Maybe we just numb ourselves to the point. Maybe we just become a nation of alcoholics and drug addicts because that's the only way to kind of numb the anxiety.
You're already a nation of drug addicts and alcoholics. You know, what are you talking about? At the end of the day, so, this place is a fucking joke. And yeah, of course, I was just listening to some brothers speak on that. They was talking about how back in the day, uh, Jacob be priding in the fact that they was drinking, maybe some expensive liquor, but now people were priding on drinking some Taylor port. And then made the elder think about Boone's Farm and MD 2020. And I grew up, Jake was drinking that, Boone's Farm. And like you said, we'll be drinking that shit. Instead of going to school, we drinking that shit. You know what I mean? You know, but it just show you the mindset of this place. You know what I mean? And again, yeah, they don't mind it. They don't care because the simple fact they if you docile to what's going on, that you're more easily controlled, which is what they want.
Because what future does this country have at this point? Do you know that 2/3 of the younger generation right now that's coming into the workforce, 2/3 are thinking about leaving the United States to find opportunities elsewhere because they're not getting jobs out of college, right? You can't find jobs that have any kind of decent pay. And if you do get a good job, there's a good chance that you're going to get laid off in just a couple months because of AI. This is one of the reasons that I just left my last job. The writing was on the wall. I mean, AI is taking over. You'd be having conversations of people that you thought were in the company, people you thought were real humans, but the AI has gotten so good that you don't even know that you're talking to a robot. A lot of the times, if you're sitting at home and you're actually getting a phone call from some kind of corporation, it's AI now. You're not actually talking to a live person, and they don't tell you that, right? They don't tell you that. You just have a conversation with Wally. So what happens when you have 2/3 of the youngest generation, the youngest part of the workforce that says, I want out of here? And it's really hard to track the amount of Americans that actually file for visas for other countries. We don't have the numbers on those. You have to go to the individual countries outside the United States and get the stats from them, which no one does because it paints a really dark picture. But in general, visas to leave the country actually went up 103% last year. I mean, what's that going to look like when the unaffordability crisis that we're in, the cost of living crisis, continues to get worse, right? Last year was the worst year the U.S. dollar has had in a long time, right? We've lost all purchasing power. Pretty soon, you're not going to be able to leverage the U.S. dollar in other countries like you can now. It's having a dwindling effect. So unless you have a creative idea or you're ahead of the curve and realize that you need to get a work visa in another country, because America is really on a steep downward trajectory when it comes to our economy. I mean, a lot of people are just going to be stuck here. And cutting the funding for childcare, I mean, listen, if you're a single parent in America, which is 30% of children in America right now are being raised by single parent households. Now, a single parent household pays about 35% of their income, their total income, going to childcare. And there's programs that you can use that make that a bit cheaper, that give you spots in childcare so that you can actually go out there and work and provide a living. Your kid's not just alone at home being raised by the cat. But that's gone now. All of a sudden, boom. It wasn't any kind of study. It wasn't any kind of research done into the numbers. It was simply a TikTok video the president saw, posted it on True Social and said, we're cutting all funding for federal child care. What a ludicrous thing to do. And like I said, it's
because he's the king of Babylon. So book of 2nd Ezra chapter 8 and verse 48 and it reads, in this also thou art marvelous before the Most High, and that thou hast humbled thyself as it becometh thee, and hast not judged thyself worthy to be much glorified among the righteous. For many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. And that's going to be a huge, obstacle for a lot of people. Again, I'm a single parent. You know, I rely on it. You know, but I already got my mind made up. I mean, what do you expect me to do? You know, it's funny because my children is a school that my family ended up going to, um, you know, years ago. Like my sister, which is, I don't know exactly how old she is. My brother's 7 years older than me, so I'll say maybe she's like 9. But it's a school she went to, and I put my children in the school like last year, and now this school closing. And I found it funny, you know what I mean? So I mean, all kind of shit going on. But like I said again, it's a huge obstacle because who's gonna really not work? You know, the crazy part is I had them in homeschool at once, but I realized that they didn't like it, and the whole purpose of me having them in the homeschooling is because of what's gonna take place. But I asked them, and they said they wanted to go to the school, so I was like, that was the spirit. But now, you know, what you expect? Like, what did? And we all understand. Well, you should recognize. Maybe you don't. If you know, I noticed Jakes be saying, you know, they, which is understandable. I mean, if it don't apply to you, why would you care about it? You know what I mean? But if you pay attention to the maturity of these children, a lot of these children are mature. And this could be the environment. It could be just, I don't know. You know, I mean, we had latchkey kids back when I was a kid. In the grade she in, you know what I mean? I wouldn't trust my oldest to literally, because, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people about to be put in a position, what do I do? A lot of people will run first to their children. But when you a single parent household, you gotta think about supporting the children. You know, the shit is so bad. I got a female friend. She got her own. Well, she doesn't have her own. But, you know, I mean, she got a job. It should have been a good job. She got her own car. You know, and yet still though, she lived with her parents. It's a situation that took place, and then you know how people get comfortable. But we in the day and age where people running back, moving in with their parents. That's how bad it is out here. You know, despair. All thanks to your boy, you know, the king of Babylon, DJ Trump. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 19, starting at verse 1, and it reads, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord Yahweh Bashem shall ride up upon a swift cloud, which is a chariot, and shall come into Egypt. Makes you think of 2nd Ezra chapter 13. And the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. Verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And that's going to be your civil war. Verse 3, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. Verse 4, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, the Lord of hosts. You know, and again, to cut the child care, knowing what kind of impact it's going to have, this man constantly just shooting himself in the foot. You know, and eventually these people are going to get fed up. You know, make you think of, what's that, Genesis 49, that old line, who shall rouse him up? The Lord is rousing, you know, because ultimately, if you are a man of the Lord, you are not supposed to take part in this. You know, you're supposed to sit back and just trust in the Lord, wait on the Lord, you know. Now, as a man, we all have the right to defend ourselves. And I'm sure you're going to be put in this, I mean, you'd be surprised how the Lord shakes shit up. But as far as the conflict where these Babylonians versus Babylonians, you know, we not supposed to partake in it because this is their kingdom. Like Yahushua said, he said, if this is my kingdom, you don't think my servants will fight? And it's his kingdom. But this wasn't the time for him to possess it. So this is our kingdom. We not about to fight for it. We just set up to do the job of pretty much proclaiming a judgment to the nations. Proclaiming, you know, or basically being utilized as a vessel, the Lord's mouth, to, tell these nations their judgment, and, to tell Israel, try to wake up Israel. Ultimately, that's the will of the Lord, because, although we might tell them and give them the breakdown, doesn't mean that they're going to, hearken on to it.
What a ludicrous thing to do. And like I said, it leads. This is how we're starting 2026. The economy is unhealthy. The politics are an absolute circus. Our country doesn't seem to be in control of itself anymore. You have Benjamin Netanyahu, who's coming to the White House and essentially just gets whatever he wants. We have CIA assets in Venezuela who are calling in airstrikes on docks. That's only escalating. So, of course, 2/3 of the younger generation are thinking about punching out, because what the hell is this? What even is this? What's going on in our country? And we have a ruling class, a political class, who doesn't care about the American people. And it's obvious and it's evident that they don't, because they just stand by, they sit by and let a historically unpopular president just run roughshod over the entire executive branch with no checks, no balances. And they're also afraid to question him or stand up to him because they think that they're going to lose their seat in Congress or the Senate or whatever. But at the same time, the American people are just getting stiffed. The American people are getting a bad deal. And the only response that we're given is that the economy is in a golden age, that America is doing super well, everybody. But, I mean, if you're alive, if you breathe, if you have to operate in this system, you understand how broken it is and how impossible it's becoming. And for, Goldman Sachs to come out and say that 2026, the K-shaped economy is going to continue the way that it is. Essentially, the wealthiest, the richest, the political class, the president, his friends, all the donors, they're going to get their way. All the countries that we're sponsoring who are going to war with other countries, they're going to continue to get their money, but the American people are going to continue to get nothing. And if anything, they're just going to get more taken from them. Tariffs aren't going away. They're being lauded as a great victory. But again, 55% of those costs are being borne on the shoulders of the American people, and American people who are getting hit again and again and again with unnecessary fees, either from the government or from corporations. And it doesn't really feel like, at this moment, America even has a future worth fighting for. And you got to come back to it. I mean, the big thing, the big focus from the kind of traditional conservative Christian nationalist side right now is like, we need to focus on families. But you're doing everything you can to make it impossible to have a family. I'm somebody who has a family. It's increasingly difficult. And not just that, divorce rates in this country are essentially 90%. So if you get married, the solid chance is you're just going to get a divorce at some point. So your kid is going to be raised by a single parent, and there's no federal funding there. If you know anything about child care costs, they're exorbitantly expensive. And most people are making $35,000 to $50,000 a year. You cannot start a family on that. And that's why 60% of younger women, right? These are your childbearing years, right? Those women, young women, hot girls, they're thinking about leaving the country. And they take up the majority of those 2/3 because America has just become a toxic cesspool without any kind of real philosophy or any kind of humanity. And women just see it as a bad deal, right? Not a place that you want to have a kid, not a place that you want to raise a kid. So how can you have a functioning society? How can you have a future that's focused on the growth of families when more than half of the women who you expect to settle down and, take their shoes off and just go make pies in the kitchen all day, because I guess that's what, the current administration thinks women are for. What happens when they want to leave? Because they're not going to be starting families here, which means that your workforce isn't going to be here. And although you hate immigrants, the fact is you're going to have to rely on immigrants. That's why you can point these things out about immigration. You can kick out a few, but still there's 50 million immigrants in this country. And we know this administration doesn't actually care if they're legal or not. They just want them gone because they want an ethno-state. But we're past that. All ethno-states essentially fail. It's a relic of the past, right? We're in the dawn of a new civilization has risen. And to fight against a diverse country, right? It's fighting against the sun. You're not going to win. You're just going to get left behind by the rest of humanity. So that's why it feels like going into 2026, hello, welcome, we're here now. It feels like the year ahead of us, the next 364 days, just feel like we're going to continue to spiral downwards. And people are tired of it. I mean, people are tired of saying, we just got to be more patient. We have to suffer a little bit so that our country can come out on the other side stronger than ever. We're the only people that are suffering are the people who are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Listen, there's something that just came out in New York City. And this is most jobs now. There's some kind of training that you have to go through when you get into whatever position you're getting into. Mine was like that. I had 3 months of training and certification courses, get federal licensing for this last job. But now they're saying that, if you go through that programming and you get laid off, you get fired, you quit your job, you're going to have to pay back all those training costs, right? This traps people. I mean, it puts people in a position where they can't leave their jobs or else they have to face steep consequences. More than just being unemployed in a job market where it takes 3 to 6 months to get a job, if you can. Now you lose your job and you have to pay back all those costs. And who says what those costs are? Right? It's the company that decides. And this is kind of the end game for corporations, is to have people not just financially dependent on the company for their wage, but the moment you sign up for your job, that company puts debt on you that they can hold over your head. It's a really dark position for the American worker to be in, honestly. But that's where we're at now in 2026, walking into it. And it really does have a dark cloud kind of hang over your New Year's resolutions. Because at this point, I mean, what can you do? What can you do? We want to come out here and talk about positivity. I would love to come out and say how great America's doing, but it would just be a lie. That's all it would be. America's not doing well. If you live here, you know that. Yeah, you're like, well, the stock market's up. The vast majority of people don't own stocks. And 90% of the stock market's owned by a very tiny fraction of the American population. So it has no reflection on the health of the economy, just on the health of wealthy people. And wealthy people are doing great, as they always will, because the system is designed to continue to enrich them. But it does feel like at this point, things are just kind of coming to a head. And 2026 is going to be a year of pretty heavy and dark consequence, I think. Because like we said in the last video, people are at that death line, right? They take one more hit and it's done. And Big Daddy government, right, with the year starting, he's already winding back and ready to kind of deliver a blow to the American people. And it's a blow that will be the death sentence to a lot of households out there. Because you push them to the financial edge where they just have enough to get by. And then right when the calendar flips.
Scripture talk about the end. The end is manifest. The end shall come. It's the book of 2nd Ezra. Because of the wickedness of this place, Babylon the Great. The things that you're allowed to indulge in. And that's why I said what I said, you know what I mean? Like, of course, the Lord, when you read Matthew chapter 24, I believe it's Luke 21 as well, it talks about the birth pains. The closer a woman gets to giving birth, the more intensifying the pain. It's the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 14 and verse 14, and it reads, "Let go from the mortal thoughts, cast away the burdens of man, put off now the weak nature." So, the Lord will test you and try you by putting you in different situations to see what you're gonna do. You don't think this? I realized this was my test, my trial. I talked about it when I first left because I didn't realize it. You know what I mean? But I also realized, again, we talk about disrespect and respect and whatnot. It would have been very disrespectful because I know as a man I wouldn't have been able to endure that. And maybe I just brought that out, or maybe that was always within him. I don't know. And I don't really, you know what I mean? It is what it is. I'm trying to figure out why you watch my page. Well, because Jake want to see me change the doctrine so you can say, see, it's him. I'm curious as to that. You know what I mean? Like, I understand what the scriptures say, and that's why I don't really trip on it. But don't nobody want to be watched over like that. You know what I mean? I'd rather it be like the Jakes that keep on unsubscribing to my channel. My question is, what you subscribe for anyway? What the thing is this, and everything I'm saying is true. So why you offended? Verse 15, and set aside the thoughts that are most heavy onto thee, and haste thee to fly. And then Jake want to tell me, they don't feel no kind of way. I just realized how naive Jake was. I was like, damn, Jake, all you've been through, you know what I mean? Like, we got similar kind of like upbringings, you know what I mean? You know, Jake ain't slow at all. So for you to say that, like, how can you say what another man feel anyway? Like, Jake will tell you, you know how Jake get down? It be an issue. Don't say nothing about the issue. So shit festering. Well, like I said again, may the Lord be with his elect. This is the book of 2 Ezra chapter 14 verse 15. And set aside the thoughts that are, you know, when the elders said what they said about fuck the affiliates or fuck, you know, he ain't say it like that. Let's not lie on nobody. It says, he said, we not fucking with the affiliates. And the first person I heard it from was from the one elder in New York. And then I'm like, I was in the middle really thinking about it. Like, damn, hold on, I ain't even do that. You know what I'm saying? But then the elder did it. And I was like, oh, okay. So, but then, you know, I didn't get no emotional about it at all. Because at the end of the day, I see where they're coming from. And ultimately, it's the will of the Lord. Hey, if, the elders close the doors on the affiliate camps and nobody no new members, maybe that's going to help speed along prophecy. Maybe that's going to help bring forth the end for real. You know what I mean? Again, you got to understand, we're not controlling shit. This is the Lord's movie. You don't think I understand how messed up my situation? Well, I ain't going to even say it's messed up. I'm going to say how, what's the word? Because Jake was like, when you do it by yourself, it's more difficult. My life been difficult since, you know what I mean? That's what she said in the movie, the show The Last of Us. He was like, I saved your life. She said, what fucking life? You know what I'm saying? Like, you sit up there at the track. You know, it's been difficult. What are you talking about? You don't know if it's really friend or foe. How you go? I mean, again, I understand you have a tighter bond with certain individuals because that's just how the Lord set it up. You brothers might be into the same thing, all that, but for you even to say that shit, how you can fix your mind and sit up there and I'm gonna look out for him and I'm glad I was never in that predicament because I never was. Somebody I never barely spoke to would get if they needed, I gave it. So you know what I mean? Like I don't have to justify or explain myself to nobody. My character spoke for itself. You know what I mean? I got dudes sitting up here. You try to size me up. You don't even fucking know me. But you will ask me for something, though. What kind of shit is that? And then put that label, I'm over you. When I said it, I was like, well, damn, you know, I'm watching you sit up there and listen to all these other people that's over you. But when it come to me, oh, no, I ain't over you, huh? Which is cool. I ain't mad. You know, the Lord set all this up for a reason. And again, who looking more foolish than who? You know, you got individuals that had a whole proud mindset of what they wanted people to think of them. That's the people that's hurt. I don't give a fuck what you think about me. So I'm up here just, you know what I'm saying? It's the individuals that's literally want everybody to think something. And if you was genuine, you wouldn't give a fuck what people think. Sitting up here, let me leave it alone because, like I said, again, I didn't want to bring that in. But I'm just thinking about it. Like, I'm watching people. What did you subscribe to my channel for in the first place then? And I don't think it was you give a fuck for real. I think you really just was seeing, wait till we change the doctrine. Because I remember when I made the statement about Putin doing something like a black man, and Jake was like, well, they're changing the doctrine. And then next thing you know, the elder said, well, you know, it was Jake's over there at one point. Booyah, huh? So it's like, I don't know. Like, I do know this. The Lord ain't playing with none of us. You know what I mean? You better get your shit together before the Lord help you get it together. Because, again, you see how 2026 starting in. Just like it was last year, baby. Call a lawyer, like, y'all, what's your shot?
The only thing is, I ain't heard about, nobody, like the house catching on fire. No, like how that incident was with the nightclub. You ain't hear about that. If anything, I read something about DJ Trump pulling troops. He pulling the National Guard from I think Chicago and from California and somewhere else. So if he's doing that, you better question what is he doing. What is he really about to do? But the scriptures say, "Let go with mortal thoughts." I can't stress over what the Lord about to do because I got no control over it. Back in Second Ezra chapter 14, verse 15, and set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto you, so like it heavy unto thee, and haste thee to fly from these times. Verse 16, the point, for yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter. You think about all the atrocities that happened in history, all the times when our people went through trouble. Well, this coming time, the time of Jacob's trouble, is going to be like none other time. It's going to be, multiplied to the umpteenth. You get what I'm saying? A time like never before. That's what the scriptures say, a time like never before. This is the book of Baruch, chapter 4. I'm starting verse 9. For he that hath brought these plagues upon you shall bring you everlasting joy with your salvation. And pretty much, again, the hopeful elect, we're going to endure these sufferings as well. We're going to go through these miseries as well. But we're going to have hope. We're going to have joy. The Lord is going to sup with us and deal with us while we're catching this hill, like he does now. We go through our different trials and tribulations. Now, I saw a video with what's her name, Fantasia. She was talking about her faith, because I know she might know she an Israelite. A lot of them try to move, because at the end of the day, they know that them people watching, they can't say certain things. But you'd be surprised who all know that they Israelites, and that's how you know we at the end. Now everybody ain't gonna do, a lot of them celebrities ain't gonna, come out boldly and say anything. They're not gonna use that platform because they gotta live there. They gotta eat. That's how they that's how they eat. That's how they survive, working in those industries. And of course they're gonna be shown. But I just saw a video with Orlando Brown. I did a lesson on it because he was up there like, there's no room for you. Basically, he was talking about the Lord and how the devil pretty much charged for everything. And he was like, and then you doing all this wickedness. He was like, pretty much, the Lord is gonna judge him. Yeah. And as bugged out as he is, he really ain't bugged out. The little antics and shit he do to stay relevant. You gotta remember, he at one point in time his name was so bad. That's just like Robert Downey Jr., like although he was a great actor or is a great actor, at one point in time he had fucked up so many bridges in Hollywood. Same with Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke know jiu-jitsu though. I be watching this one Jake that do jiu-jitsu, and Mickey Rourke training, and he looked like he good too, because he was fucking old boy up, and old boy good. It says, verse 30, take a good heart, O Jerusalem, for he that gave thee that name will comfort thee. Miserable are they that afflict thee, and rejoice at thy fall. Miserable are the cities which thy children serve. Miserable is she that received thy sons. Verse 33, for as she rejoiced at thy ruin, and was glad of thy fall, so shall she be grieved for her own desolation. Right. These Edomites is taking a beating. And it's hilarious. A friend of mine took me out over New Year's Eve. Maybe broke New Year's in. And just everything is so decrepit. At one point in time, the amount of money she paid for this place, this room, and like we've been there several times prior, but it's like everything is getting worse. I'm talking about this is in an established city. Like you name the city, Jake gonna be like, well, damn, man, listen. This motherfucking the manager called the police up there and had the police patrolling the. Now this is a hotel. This is not a motel. This is a hotel with a pool and a bar and a kitchen. And you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of, at one point in time we consider elegant. At one point in time, niggas probably wouldn't even be able to rent out of there, no matter if you got the money. I'm old enough to see and remember when Denny's wouldn't serve you because you was a nigga. Why? I got stupid ass people that I grew up around talking about, ain't no racism. Nigga, I experienced it. What are you talking about? So yeah, I find it funny that these devils is getting a taste of what the fuck they deserve. You know, then this Arabic chick with her children jumped right in front of me and I almost cussed the bitch out. But then she left. You know, just the pride of these fucking people. She come back, I say, yeah, they think just because you from the Middle East, you gonna be in chains too. You and your little fucking kids. And when I go back up there, she wasn't up there no more. She just let her kids go by themselves. Let's get to that part, you know what I mean? It's the book of I'm gonna let you watch the rest of that video on your because I gotta get ready to get up out of here, but I'm gonna bring out these last 3 scriptures. I ain't noticed it was that long. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, starting at verse. I'm gonna read it in the NLT, and it reads, "This is what the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahshua says: I will stir up and destroy against Babylon and the people of Babylonia. Foreigners will come and winnow her, blowing her away as chaff. They will come from every side to rise up against her in her day of trouble. Don't let the archers put on their armor or draw their bows. Don't spare even her best soldiers. Let her army be completely destroyed. They will fall dead in the land of the Babylonians, slashed to death in her streets. For the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua of heaven's armies has not abandoned Israel and Judah. He is still their power, even though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Flee from Babylon. Flee up out of the midst of Babylon as far as the mindset. Because a lot of us is in positions we can't flee. I'm stuck in a place right now, which the Lord obviously wanted me here. I mean, I could have got up out of it, but when I seen it not going the way I wanted it to go, and I'm seeing like, well, you will have to put yourself more in debt. I'm like, oh no, I'm not about to do that. Because I understand we're in a bubble. You know. My father said that a lot of this shit that we going through now, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, flee from Babylon, save yourselves, don't get trapped in her punishment. It is the Lord's time for vengeance. He will repay her in full. Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, a cup that made the whole earth drunk. And when you go into Psalm 75, it talks about the nation of Edom going to have to drink double of that cup, the cup of the Lord's wrath. The nations drank Babylon's wine, and it drove them all mad. You know, this is basically following after the footsteps and the philosophies of Babylon the Great. You know, I saw the elder post that video about the Jake that pretty much he was like, he wanted to apologize to the body because of the fact he was following another individual. So, you know, the Lord convicted him to bring that out because maybe he know or realize he went off following that person. You know, that's a lot of people's problem. Like, they don't know how to be themselves. They got to be or trying to be something that somebody else is. And I've seen it. And you can see that as on a younger man. Yeah. I've rarely seen grown ass men or let them believe they grown trying to, you know, you try to be this man. Like, what the fuck? I ain't never even looked up to a movie star. I think at wrestling, one point in time in wrestling, I like wrestling. I liked the Ultimate Warrior. This nigga didn't talk. And actually he did some amazing feat. Remember when he lifted up, well, all that was staged, you know, when you young though, you didn't realize that. But when he lifted up Andre the Giant, says verse 8, but suddenly Babylon too has fallen. Weep for her, give medicine, so I can give her medicine, perhaps she can be healed. So like perhaps she can yet be healed, you know. And this place is fallen. That's the point of coming out with this verse because, you know, again, nothing is the same. This shit is, you know, ultimately, it's done. You know, like the elders said, stick a fork in it, bitch. It's over with. Ain't no hill in this place. No matter how hard you try. Salakia says, verse 9, we would have helped her if we could, but nothing can save her now. Let her go, abandon her, return now to your own land. For her punishment reaches to the heavens. It is so great it cannot be measured. And that makes you think of Isaiah. I mean, so like in Revelation chapter, I think it's 18, it talks about how the sins of this place have reached onto the heavens. So her judgment is set forth, you know, to that time, basically, that the Heavenly Father, Abba Yahweh, set up for her. Yeah. This horror is going down. It's the book of Romans, chapter 15, and I believe it's verse 13. Because although we're going to be in the midst of this and we see all this despair, we have hope and we trust in Yahweh Shem Yahushua. He renews us day by day. This is the book of Romans chapter 15 and verse 13. Now the Most High of hope filled you with all joy and peace in believing that ye may abound in hope through the power of the Holy Ghost. Verse 14, and myself also am persuaded of you, my brethren, that ye also are full of goodness, filled with all knowledge, able also to admonish one another. Verse 15, nevertheless, brethren, I have written the more boldly unto you in some sort, as putting you in mind because of the grace that is given to me of the Most High. So ultimately, the point is about the hope. And again, we are so chill and in peace because of the fact we know it's written. We know we must suffer these things. In order to get the kingdom, you must suffer the straight gate. And the Lord ain't dealing with nobody that's trying to come up another kind of way. If you think that you're not about to have to suffer, endure, and go through this straight gate, then and ain't no such thing as a rapture. The rapture comes, for the elect, but they're going to endure, this tribulation period. We watching the tribulation period go down. That show you how confused a Christian is. Because these Babylonians is catching it. Mind you, everybody is affected by the healthcare, and I ain't gonna say everybody the child care, but everybody the healthcare. And that's just a little thing. Again, this dude said he saw a guy making a YouTube or TikTok or whatever, and based on this dude making that video, the president was just able to freeze funds. You know something? When I first seen him talking about that shit, when they said the Minnesota thing, I knew then that it was going to affect everybody. Then I saw the governor, DeWine, he said something about it, but I didn't take no time to look into it because, a lot going on. And then finally, they just talk about it on the news. Just that quick. Yeah, because that's showing you he's not trying to heal nothing. Listen, if you got a workforce compromised of parents, I didn't know that number, but he said it's like 30% of households are single parent households. So they got to work. Do you know how ridiculously expensive this is about to be? And that's why I kept on saying the fact of what I was saying. We got to grow their ass up. Verse Isaiah chapter 26, and I'm going to start at verse 1. In that day shall this song be sung in the land of Judah. We have a strong city. And that's cold because I read Baruch chapter 4. It talks about miserable are the cities. We have a strong city. Salvation will the Most High appoint for walls and bulwarks. Open ye the gates that the righteous nation which keepeth the truth may enter in, which ultimately represents Israel, Yasharallah. He Prince Power. So-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, West Indians, and Haitians, God's true chosen people. Because when we in order, we are above every people on the planet. Us coming back to order, we are above all these people on the planet. The scriptures tell you that the heathen are looked at as spittle. Verse 3, though thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Verse 4, trust ye in the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua forever, for in the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is everlasting strength. And ultimately, that's what you're going to have to do if you are the hopeful elect. Because, again, a lot of the things that the Lord got going on is going to affect us. But if you trust in the Lord, you won't do like that Jake did. Because, again, I had opinion on it, but at the same time, I wasn't really checking. Because, again, it's different when you're the one going through it. But at the same time, I know I wouldn't have put myself in no situation like that. This ain't the time to be going back to school. Why would you go to school for trucking when they about to shut down trucking industry? That's what Amazon got self-driving semis. Like, the fuck? And if Amazon got them, it's a patent. So another company can get him. What you talking about? But, you know, I mean, Jake gonna do what Jake want to do. Trust me. I remember when the brother invited me to come down there, and I was just thinking like, oh, maybe the Lord let me back in. And at first I wasn't gonna go, but then, you know, I had to really meditate on it. I'm like, well, damn, that's what you wanted, right? So then when I agreed to it, he was ducking and dodging the call. So I knew something was up then. He like, oh yeah. But point of the matter being, I had already had it in my mind, like, no, I would never do that again. Yeah, remember this dude did some shit and affected my household. It was just you know what I mean? Like, this girl told my Eve, and next thing you know, about all kind of demons in my house. I'm talking about it was demons in there. I said, I'll never do that again. And I remember Jake said up there, you got to. I got to do shit I can do just like these other men that's over me that should be dealing with this shit as opposed to me. I even try to send him to talk to them. Like, yeah, you want that position, you got that position, do your fucking position. So again, the brotherhood is a beautiful thing, and at the end of the day, like I told that brother, obviously, you know, I'm not part of the brotherhood. You know, maybe to some individuals, you know, I'm still looked at as a brother. But when you can see a man that you know and you did these things with, and they look past you and act like they didn't see you, you know what I mean? I seen that. I ain't gonna say who, but I seen that. Two brothers, remember? Lock eye to eye, and the brother skid off, and I ain't see him. No, all I got is Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. The brothers that need brothers, I pray that the brotherhood is enough for you to get through. I pray if you care about me, you ain't got to be on my page. You know what I mean? You could just, I mean, I ain't telling nobody what to do because at the end of the day, it's all the will of the Lord. But what I'm saying is, I just found that funny. You know, I can see who subscribed to me, who allows me to see. So when you come on and then you get know, like, again, what is the real purpose though? Like, I mean, you're supposed to grow in the truth. So yeah, the things you was doing when you first came in, you're supposed to not do no more. But at the same time, it's like, I find it funny. What was you really on the page for? To wait for me to change the doctrine? So you say, oh, you do realize I didn't lie. And look at the Lord still got me going through this, right? I ain't even mad. They lied on the Lord. You get what I'm saying? So in order to be having to suffer something that our Lord suffered, oh yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Maybe years ago I wouldn't have realized that, but nonetheless, I grew in that much. I learned that. So I don't know what the Lord got in store or planned for any of us. You know, a lot of times I thought certain things were going to happen and it didn't happen, showing you I'm a man as well. But I do know we all about to suffer these things, so you better lock in with the Lord because you're going to need, you know, faith. You know, you're going to need a relationship to be able to endure these things that's about to come. Again, it's about to be a second shakeup. If you're so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American, Seminole Indian, West Indian, or Haitian, I implore you to come back to the laws, statutes, and commandments of your power. The true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua. You will be destroyed. With that, I want to give all praise. I want to give all honor. I want to give all glory to Call Haloyim La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem Kodash. Double honors to the elders, to the apostles I learned this truth from. Peace and salutations to the Akim, across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives and the freedom to do so. Now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and the Aqua, to the listening and learning. Lord willingly, this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad in the land of the other nations, appearing like the other nations, but subscribing to this truth. To you, I say shalom. Until next time, Lord willingly. Shalom, shalom. Say Kwam Yasharallah and Mawak Lababal. Shalom.